Good afternoon to those that are on the call today. I appreciate you joining us for another HR Corner. I'm Steve Schilling, the moderator, also the director of the Small Business Development Center, headquartered at Kent State University, Tuscarawas. For those that are not familiar with our organization, we provide confidential, no-charge consulting with areas of expertise in marketing, food service, leadership, finance and accounting, QuickBooks and bookkeeping, computer technology, and of course, HR, human resources. And we had a session not too long ago on business disaster planning, which was very beneficial. Those resources, again, are available to you on a confidential, no-cost basis. We have muted everyone for our speakers' benefit. If you have questions, I would ask that you use the chat room. You can find the chat room either down below in the ribbon or up in the upper right-hand corner. If you just run your mouse over there, it'll say show conversation, and then go ahead and type in your question or comments, and we'll be happy to get to those before we sign off at the end of the day. I'm very pleased to have with us today Joanna Forbes. Joanna has 20 years of human resources experience in various industries, including healthcare, manufacturing, food and restaurant, service, and nonprofits. She's a certified HR professional with the Society of Human Resource Management. Joanna owns and serves as the chief HR consultant for Forbes Human Resources, a local HR consulting firm. And most importantly for me, she serves as an HR advisor for the SBDC. Through the SBDC, Joanna is available for direct assistance. So if you have specific questions that did not get answered today or you need additional help, please feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to connect the two of you. This session is being recorded. The slides will be emailed to you at the conclusion of the session along with the recording. Again, if you have suggestions or recommendations for other topics or programs, please let me know by going to the chat room, and we'll do our best to accommodate those suggestions. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Joanna.
Thank you, Steve. Just some more useful information for today's webinar that Steve had already mentioned. This will be recorded and put on the website. I also want to point out this particular webinar, I'm going to be showing a lot of posters, of course, because that's our topic. All of the links for those posters will be emailed to you as well, along with the slides for today. So don't feel like you need to take screenshots of the posters or things that we're going to see today. Also, a disclaimer, just for today's presentation, it's for informational purposes only. And I say that because this information changes, as we know, a lot. So it's current as of today's date. Please always refer to your specific industries, standards, and regulatory agencies to stay compliant on all of your mandatory and recommended business practices. So let's go ahead and get started. So thank you again for coming to our HR Corner. These are shorter webinars. For those of you, if this is the first one you've ever come to, we try to get these done within the half an hour, and we try to give you some practical information that you can take back to the workplace and implement immediately. So today we're going to be talking about federal labor posters, the state of Ohio posters, COVID-19, how to find these posters, where to display them at the workplace, and some final reminders. So first things first, why do we have to display these labor posters? So we know it's the law, right? But it's because employees, they have a legal right to understand and to know their workplace rights and to understand their employer's responsibility to provide a fair and legal and compliant workplace. So we know that it's the law, we have to hang these posters up, but it's really because we want our employees to understand what their rights are. And if you have one employee, you will need to display at least some of the posters that we're going to be talking about today. Here's my scary slide, and I'm not putting this up to scare people, but I just wanted to be transparent about there are penalties out there for not having the right posters up. Now, I do want to say, though, the Department of Labor and OSHA and the EEOC they're not out there banging on doors looking for posters so they can give out penalties. Typically, if you see a penalty for a poster, it's because that agency is at your workplace for another reason, because they're investigating some sort of workplace claim or injury. And when they come to do the investigation, they see that you don't have the poster up that goes with the investigation. And that's where these penalties do come into play. I'm not saying don't hang them up. I'm just saying that you're not going to be, given a $21,000 fine for not having a poster for no reason. So let's talk about federal and state laws. I just want to point this out for a minute because sometimes we see conflicting information from our federal laws and our state laws. And the most common one that we have here in Ohio, of course, is the minimum wage. So when you do have federal workplace laws, those are typically the minimum that they want all of the employers in our country to follow. And then states can put on more, what we typically use the term generous policies for their employees. So you're never going to find a state that would have a lower minimum wage than what the federal government is mandating. So let's talk about those federal posters. So again, just as a reminder, everybody on the call today is going to get the links to get all of these posters. So no need to, like I said, screenshot or anything like that. So the first poster I want to talk about that you've probably seen in workplaces or have at your workplace is the Equal Opportunity poster. Now this is a 2-page poster. The one I have here is just the first page. And this is for all employers that have 15 or more employees. So if you have at least 15 employees, you have to have this poster hanging up. And it describes all of the federal laws prohibiting employment discrimination based on what we have listed there on the poster and on the right. And most importantly, it also explains how an employee can file a complaint. So whenever I'm doing workplace trainings, I'm always saying employees filing a complaint for discrimination, this is the organization who they would file it through. Now, for those of you on the call today who have less than 15 employees, so you're thinking, oh, I don't have to hang this up. You don't have to hang this up. This law doesn't apply to employees with less than 15 employees, but I always say if you have less than 15 employees, that does not mean that we can discriminate against our applicants and our employees. We still have to work through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It would just be through a different avenue if there was a claim against you. So this poster here is another poster that all employers have to have. This is the Employee Polygraph Protection Act. Now, it seems kind of silly that we actually have to hang up a poster that says we can't give lie detector tests to our employees. You know, who's doing that? But it has happened, and this act has been around since 1988. And it does prevent employers from using lie detector tests for either pre-employment screenings or during employment. So this is for all employers. And I know you've seen this one before. This is the Fair Labor Standards Act poster. Again, this is a federal poster, so it's going to have the federal minimum wage. It's going to talk about overtime, tip credit, how this is enforced. I just want to point out, if you can look in the middle of the poster, the nursing mothers piece. This is newer in terms of the FLSA poster, where all employers have to provide a clean, safe environment for nursing mothers to express milk. So this is something that would have changed on this poster, I believe, within the last 5 years. So there are changes from time to time on this one, not very often, but there are some changes. This is the OSHA poster that you've probably seen before. This is the OSHA Job Safety and Health. It's the law poster. All employers have to have this up, talking about their rights under OSHA and that they have a right to a safe workplace. This is the USERRA poster. This has to be in all employers as well. The Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USERRA is what we call this. And this protects our service members' reemployment rights when they come back from active duty. And also if they're called up to reserves or called to duty, this prevents any sort of discrimination against them if they do have to leave their place of employment to serve. And this is the FMLA poster, the Family Medical Leave Act. So if anybody on the call today has more than 50 employees, you do have to have this poster hanging up. And it explains the rights of employees entitled to family medical leave, which is typically 12 weeks every 12 months for a medical necessity for their self or for a primary immediate family member. Now, I want to point out, because I know some of our SBDC clients who have less than 50 employees still use some sort of leave of absence policy in their handbook. So that is fine, but you still do not want to hang this poster up if you have less than 50. It's totally fine to have some sort of leave of absence. You may even mirror this policy, and that is fine, but you still do not want to hang the poster unless you have 50 employees. Okay, so those were the most common federal posters that I just went over. I'll talk about some other ones here in a minute, but now let's get to our state of Ohio posters. So this is the Ohio Civil Rights Commission poster. Equal employment opportunity is the law for all employers. So you're going to want to have this one hanging up as well. You'll notice it's very similar to the Equal Employment Opportunity federal poster with a little bit of some differences in there. Most importantly, at the bottom, it talks about enforcement. So, and how an employee can actually file a claim with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. So you're going to want to have this one hanging up. This is the Ohio minimum wage poster. So of course, this one shows that we have the $8.70 as our minimum wage, which of course is higher than the federal minimum wage. It even talks about in this poster, what is the federal minimum wage? Talks about overtime, the records that you need to keep, and any exemptions to minimum wage. So you definitely have to have this one hanging as well. This is the minor labor laws. This one breaks down very specifically all the restrictions for anybody under the age of 18. A lot of our clients at the SBDC may hire teenagers to work at their shop, and you will see this breaks it down very clearly on the restrictions that they have on hours and occupations. So this one needs to be hanging as well. This is the unemployment insurance. So you have to have this one hanging up, letting your employees know that they are provided unemployment insurance. And there's the phone number on there. So if they needed to file and all of the information that they would need. And here's the no smoking poster. This seems silly. It's not really a workplace labor law poster, but it does need to be hanging with your other posters. Okay, let's talk about workers' compensation for a minute. So if you do have workers' compensation through the state, if you're not self-insured, post your certificate of coverage and the required posting that's at the bottom. This usually falls on the same page. You're going to want to hang this up. Every year when your policy updates, you'll need to remove this one and hang the new one up. And this is what this one looks like. And you should get this email to you every time you renew your policy. If anybody on the call today is a public employer, so a public employer is anybody employed by the state, the county, an agency, city, township, village, a school district, a state university. If you are a public employer, you need to hang this poster up. It's very similar to the OSHA safety poster, but this is specifically for public employment risk reduction program. So this needs to be hanging in your office. And if anybody on the call today is self-insured for their workers' comp, they'll need to hang this poster up. You don't see this too much anymore, but I just wanted to mention it just in case. You'll have this poster, and if you are self-insured, you also received a notice from the BWC that approved your status as a self-insured employer with your information on it, and that would need to be hanging up as well. Okay, let's switch gears here for a minute and talk about the coronavirus workplace poster. So that is the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, the FFCRA. And this was for all employers with less than 500 employees, and they need to hang this poster up. This needs to be hanging until the end of the year. You probably have heard or read that employers with less than 50 employees may be exempt from this, but I would recommend that you still hang this poster up because you would have to prove your exemption if you were to deny an employee their rights under the FFCRA policy. So I would still recommend hanging this poster even if you do have less than 50 employees. Again, keep this posted till the end of the year unless they change it and extend it, which they may. Okay, let's talk about local laws for a minute. You do not see these very often. There isn't anything in our area that I could even use as an example, but a recent example in the city of Pittsburgh in March is they do have sick time now. As you know, the federal law, the state of Ohio does not mandate any sort of sick time policies for employers. Any sort of vacation or PTO plan that employers provide in the state of Ohio are just because the employers choose to do so. So the city of Pittsburgh put in a mandated sick time policy. So this would be considered a local law, and this would be a labor law, which would have this poster that would need to be hanging. So I just wanted to point out there are local laws that, again, have to be more generous than whatever the state law is and whatever the federal law is. It could never be less than what's already mandated on a federal or state level. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, that didn't seem like a lot of posters. There was like 5 or 6 federal and a handful of state. And you're thinking, I've seen so many other posters. There are some other posters, but really there's not as many as we think. It does seem a little overwhelming. If you're an agricultural business and you're hiring migrant workers, there is a poster there that you would need to hang up. If anybody on the call today needs help with that, please call and reach out, but I'm going to let you know how to get to all of those in a second. Anybody on the call today that has a business with federal contracts, if you have any federal contracts, you'll have some additional posters as well. And I'm going to let you know how to get to those here in a second as well. So there are a couple additional posters for some other folks. So the ones that we went over today are definitely all of the ones that you need. And then just some other folks may need a couple additional posters, and I'll let you know how to get to those. So I want to talk about these for a minute because you've probably seen these all-inclusive poster offers, and you get mail that comes into your office that's frightening. You know, if you don't buy this poster, you're not going to be compliant. You'll have to pay these fines, and then they probably list those fines that I listed earlier. There are a lot of companies out there that sell these all-inclusive posters. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. They're laminated. They're very pretty. And the only thing I just wanted to point out, if you do go ahead and buy them, and I'm not saying don't buy them, I'm not saying buy them, is just keep in mind they're only as current as the day that you buy them. So the minute that they print it and send it to you, that's it. You know, they cannot guarantee that that's going to be current even a day from the day you get it. So you will still need to make sure that you're keeping up with your ongoing compliance. A lot of these companies, J.J. Keller or whatnot, they'll have subscription services that you can purchase. Well, they'll constantly send you the updated posters. Of course, it's all for a cost. Nothing is free. So those are different ways that you can get them and do them if you don't just want to go the free route, which we're going to talk about here in a second. A lot of times people will buy one to start, and then they'll just start covering up the parts that are outdated with the free PDF that they get offline, and then it starts looking a little willy-nilly. So that's always an option as well. So where do all these posters need to be? So they legally need to be in a visible and conspicuous location, and you'll see that language on a lot of the posters. So they need to be in an office, remain free of any clutter. So we can't put on top of a labor poster, Bob's selling his truck, or there's going to be a bake sale. None of those things can be on top of any of these posters. And if they're defaced in any way, written on or whichever, they do need to be removed and updated with a clean copy. So you're typically going to see these in break rooms, lunch rooms, the reception area, near the time clock, near the employee entrance, or in the locker room. I just want to point out the one poster, and that's the EEO poster, the Equal Employment Opportunity poster. Any applicants, if you have applicants come in and sit in a lobby and fill out applications, you don't see this much anymore. Everything's online. But if you do, that poster needs to be somewhere where applicants can see it. So if you have an area where applicants sit, that one poster does need to be there for applicants. Okay, so if anybody on the call has off-site employees, they're like, we don't have a break room or a lunchroom, right? You can post it on the intranet. Anywhere that your employees go to get their pay records, to get their benefit records, that's perfectly acceptable. You can email the posters to them. I remember specifically one of our SBDC clients during COVID over the summer was wondering how to get that new FFCRA poster to their employees because there wasn't an office. And emailing is perfectly fine. A lot of times you'll see a temporary poster area at a work site. If you're driving past construction on the side of the road, sometimes you'll see a large poster with workplace posters on them. If they know they're going to be somewhere for a while. You can put them in a binder and have them on a work site, just knowing that all the employees are aware of them. But if you have any sort of office of any sort, they have to be posted there. So just the point there is you can't just do the things above. If you do have an office, they have to be posted there. Okay, so what's the good stuff? How do we get these posters? So my best recommendation for you is, and again, you're going to be getting all of these links. The 3 bullets that you see on this slide, you'll be getting links to all of these. So the Department of Labor has a great tool called the E-Laws Poster Advisor, where you click on it and it walks you through the steps. It will ask you the important questions of how many employees do you have? What type of industry are you in? What type of employees are you hiring? Do you have federal contracts, et cetera, et cetera? So all of the answers to those questions will then lead you to the list of posters that you need to hang up, and they will put them right on the screen for you in links, and they're all PDFs, and you can just print them out. And 90% of the time, they're the 5 posters that we went over today, and there may be an additional 1 or 2 if you have some specific things in your industry that you're doing. The Ohio Department of Job and Family Services website is a great tool as well, and you'll be getting that link in the email. You click on that link, and it gives you a large PDF of all of the posters that you need for the state of Ohio, and they also include some of those federal posters that I talked about as well. And then the Bureau of Workers' Compensation website has all of the workers' comp posters that I talked about as well. Of course, for your own certificate, though, you'll have to print that out from your policy. So just remember, don't be scared. You do not have to pay for any of those required posters, no matter what letter you're getting in the mail saying you're out of compliance, you have to buy this now. Don't let those scare you. They're all available for free in a PDF format on all of the governmental websites above. So don't let those poster companies scare you. Just some final reminders today, make a good faith effort to post. Again, they're not coming out looking for poster violations. If they're on your workplace for another sort of investigation, they will look to see if you have the poster, but no one's going around looking for poster violations. Put an annual reminder on your calendar. So maybe January of every year, look to see, go to the links that you're going to get today and just look and see if anything updated. Or of course, always just call us at the SBDC and we can help you with that. And then ask yourself, if one of my employees needed to see the workplace posters, would they know where to look? If your answer to that is no, or that you don't know, I would highly suggest it maybe your next staff meeting or in an email if all of your employees are off-site. Whatever way you communicate to them, you just remind them where the posters are and that they always have access to them, because that's really the most important thing. There's no point in hanging them up hidden in a closet somewhere and then your employees aren't even aware of them. So that would defeat the purpose of all of it. So ask yourself that question. So that's everything today on posters. I want to thank everybody. And at this point, I'm going to send it back to Steve to see if we have any questions.
Okay. Okay, Joanna, thank you very much. First of all, thanks for the cost-saving tips. I think I shared with you before the session started today. I personally received a countless number of inquiries from businesses that have recently registered and received the letter. I think the last letter was for $67. They can get all the posters they need. So telling them today where they can get it for free is certainly a worthwhile tip. So
great.
First question, what if employees come in the office in the morning and then are out of the office the rest of the day? Do they need to have the posters with them in their vehicles?
No, they don't. As long as they're coming into that office, like I said, if you have any sort of office, you have to have those posters hanging up. So a lot of times for companies where people are offsite working, as long as they come in the morning, say they come in and punch in and then they're gone for the rest of the day, have those posters by the time clock or wherever you know they're going to see them, and then you're good. You're covered there. They don't need to carry them around or have them in their truck or anything like that.
Okay. And for clarification, primarily for my purpose, owners are not considered employees. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
You did say that. I just want to be clear. Is it a good idea to have posted in multiple locations if for certain businesses where they may take an application for a new employee or a locker room, or is it just one location sufficient?
Is one location is sufficient. If you have multiple locations, then of course at the different multiple locations, but not in one building. One place is fine.
No, I meant just in the building, so that answered my question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then the last question that I had was you mentioned the penalties several times, and you mentioned they're not looking for them. Just in your past experiences, have you seen the situations where companies have been fined because they've been investigating something else?
Yeah, so typically if it's, especially with OSHA, when OSHA comes in, they'll be looking for, they look for everything. If there's any sort of workplace injury, especially a serious one, they'll be looking for their posters for sure. Now, something like the Employee Polygraph Act, that's probably not happening as often. So it's more for your more common workplace investigations.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, that's all the questions that I see through the chat room and what we received earlier. Thanks again, Joanna. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you. All of a sudden, the PowerPoint went out, but I think that was what you did. So very helpful information, not something that everybody wants to necessarily focus on, but it is a critical issue, especially if you receive that warning letter in the mail. So it's good to know about posters. I'd like to thank again the attendees for taking time out of their busy schedule for joining us. And again, a reminder, if the SBDC, Joanna in particular, can be a resource for this particular subject or any subject related to HR or any of the other specialists we offer, to me. And that's it on my end. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.